Chairman.
Thank you. So we have a quorum. Good evening, everyone. Trust your summer was good. If you went away, hope you had a great vacation. If you didn't and did home improvement like me, I won't be going on vacation for the next 2 years. I have no more money. So much for that. But it's good to see everyone. The kids are back in school. Looking forward to certainly moving the processes along as we do the work going into the fall season. Just want to remind everyone, as we stated at the last meeting, this meeting is being videotaped as per the new legislation. So please be aware of that. And for the purposes of the court reporter, if you do speak, please just state your name as you speak so that she can record that. And if there are any presentations taking place, we ask that you just come up front so it'll be easier for her to hear you and it'll be easier for the audience to receive. First on the agenda, the acceptance of the minutes, so hopefully you had some time to review that. If so, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Say your name,
Marco
please.
Tunstall.
A motion,
Second.
second. Lori Penfield. It has been properly seconded. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Abstentions, there being none, so moved. Next on the agenda, board correspondence. So we do have 3 new board members that we would like to recognize. So I'd like to give an opportunity to introduce themselves to the board and afterwards entertain a motion to recognize them as new members to the board. We have Charlie Samboy, Helen Foreman-Hines, here, yes, and Monty Castaneda. Did I pronounce it correctly? Okay, good, okay. Welcome all. Charlie, I'll give you, Mr. Samboy, the opportunity to speak to the board and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, I'm Charlie Samboy, the lead representative for NBA 1 and 2 in the Bronx. I'm born and raised in the Hunts Point section. I currently work at my alma mater, Hunter College, doing business administration and finance, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Helen Foreman-Hines, and I work for 1199 SEIU as a project director. I'm just happy to be here so that I can learn something new. What else? I live in the Bronx. I'm covering Bronx 9 and 10. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Monty Castaneda, and I am basically a native of Queens, born and raised in Jackson Heights. So very happy to represent my district, which is the team. I work at the Perlmutter Cancer Center at NYU with basic breast cancer and also at the Center for the Elimination of Cancer Disparities. So I'm interested in talking to anyone on that level as well.
Great, we appreciate it. On behalf of the board, we welcome you. Look forward to your service on this board. Tremendous work to be done. With that said, entertain a motion to recognize the 3 new members to the board.
May I have the pleasure and honor, Mr. Chairman, so moved.
So moved, Mr. Clerk Phillip, seconded by Jason Price. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, there being none, so moved. Welcome again, and we look forward to your service. Next up, we have our financial report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Walter. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Finance at PYCD. So I'm going to give the financial report to the board this evening. If you could look in your packets, there are copies of, we have both fiscal year 14 and fiscal year 15 reports. In our previous board meeting, we were reporting within fiscal year 14, which has since ended as of June 30th. And we're now operating in fiscal year 15. So that's why there's 2 reports in here. I'd also point out, so with the new leadership of the board, there were some recommendations about how we present these financial reports at the meetings. And so There's a bigger report that is just, excuse me, that's upside down. A bigger report that was the former standard way that we would show our financial information to the board at each meeting. But there is a smaller version that sort of breaks it down in a higher level way, that's probably a little bit more digestible, a little less detail, and also shows a change in the reported spending from one board meeting to the next. So if we could start with the city fiscal year 14 report, that's the yellow highlighted report, and we're working from the smaller table, which is the financial comparison report. So in city fiscal year 2014, which, as I said, has ended at this point, we had $35 million available, right? At our previous board meeting, we had reported total expenses of $26.4 million. And tonight, as of spending as of 9/10, that's when we pulled the data, we had $33.4 million in spending. And so with this new report, we can show that within the last quarter, effectively, since June, we've spent nearly $7 million under our community services block grant. So that's sort of the update that we can provide in terms of the change in spending. And that's for fiscal year 14, which is now closed. We're in the process of closing out fiscal year 14, okay? So if you go to the other kind of, I guess, peach-colored highlighted small table, that's where we start off now in fiscal year 15, okay? As of right now in fiscal year 15, we have $30.5 million available. We will likely be adding funds because there was some leftover money from fiscal year 14. We didn't spend it all. And with federal funds, we're able to roll funds, so this number should increase. We did not report any spending at the last board meeting because we were not yet in fiscal year 15, so that's 0. But year to date, we've spent $1.2 million so far, so that's the amount that we spent effectively for fiscal year 15 in the last quarter. Okay. So, any questions? Anybody has any questions on the financial report?
Any questions, concerns regarding the report? Thank you, Justin, I appreciate it, and appreciate you revising it. We thought it'd be a little bit easier to follow every time we meet in terms of how the budget is moved, just to kind of get a clear picture when you're looking at these numbers. So if there are no questions, concerns, I entertain a motion to accept the financial report as has been stated. So moved by Joseph Pierre.
Second, Morgan Tosto.
They're properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? There being none, so moved. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chong is not present, so on his behalf, Deputy Commissioner Mike Bobbitt will give a presentation.
Thank you, I'm Mike Bobbitt, Assistant Commissioner, Community Development Operations. I send regards to those regrets that Commissioner Chan is not able to be present. Deputy Commissioner Gutierrez also sends her regards, or her regrets that she's not able to be present. So I will present on their behalf. So as a reminder to this group, we recently submitted the federal fiscal year 15 refunding application, which is referenced implicitly by our colleague Justin's report. It has been conditionally approved. We're waiting for it to be formally approved, and when it is, we'll let the executive committee know of that fact. This group will remember, as a part of our federal fiscal year 15 plan, we'll be assigning the Immigrant Legal Services contract to Human Resources Administration, and Department of State has conditionally approved that. As part of that plan, we have a follow-up meeting with HRA to work out the details of those assignments. So that's item 1. Item 2, as this group may be aware, the Neighborhood Development Area's request for proposal has just been released. There's a new method the city uses for request for proposals, a portal called HHS Accelerator. All human service agencies now use this portal for request for proposals. We will follow up with this meeting to give you the details of the RFP, but I wanted to convey to you one of the differences. Some who've been on the board longer will remember there was one huge RFP that entailed all the different funding options. That's actually been broken up into 7 separate competitions. So the seniors, housing, adult literacy, NDA integration, high school, the seniors, healthy families, and the new area that we've created, Opportunity Youth, part-time employment, and job training for adolescents are all broken into the 7 RFPs. It's a huge file to try to transmit, so we've been working with HHS to get a more digestible version of the RFP to share with this group. So as I said, we'll follow up later on to get that to you shortly. The proposal conference meetings will be held over the course of the next few days with the expectation that proposals will be received next month. A reminder to the CAB, as always, around this time, we start asking members of the CAB to read, so please see Joe or myself about reading the proposals once received. The Poverty Symposium, I want to remind this group, on August 12th, we hosted with partners including New York Law School, Health First, Models, and Department of State and New York State Community Action Association, a symposium to recognize the 50th anniversary of the launch of the War on Poverty. This was a very well-attended event. We had in excess of 300 people who stayed for the day. We participated in 10 different workshops, training seminars, et cetera. I looked at the preliminary evaluations, very glowing. People felt that their time was well spent, and we will continue to communicate with this constituency who's hungry to do more related to our work. We will host a regional meeting for community action agencies in our part of the state, that means Westchester as well as Nassau and Suffolk County, here at DYC on September 23rd, so that we can continue to share best practices with our colleagues who also receive CSBG funding. I want to let this group know, and we probably talked about this before, that there is a move impending. DYC will be moving its administrative offices. The staff from our relevant units, that's Community Development Operations, as well as the Neighborhood Advisory Board unit, the Literacy unit, the Immigration unit that received the preponderance of CSBG funding as part of their work, will all be moving to the new administrative location, that's 2 Lafayette. We anticipate that move to occur sometime in the month of November. We'll be able to report follow-up status at the next CAB meeting. And last but not least, I want to acknowledge Greg Hambrick, Models, as well as Health First, and our other city and statewide partners. We had a very successful Dad Take Your Child to School event on Tuesday, 16th. Some sites will continue to hold events throughout the fall, but for the most part, events were held on the 16th. Some of the new features this year, the governor issued a proclamation recognizing September 16th as Dad Take Your Child to School Day. Mayor de Blasio issued a mayoral proclamation recognizing the same, and the campaign continues to grow. I think last time I reported to you, we had reported about 450 sites that participated last year. We know that there were over 610 sites that registered this year. So hopefully, when we brief, we'll know the full breadth of participation. But anecdotal reports both across the city and across the state are that men are engaging and really embracing this campaign. So thank you for your support. I see there's one question.
Assistant Commissioner Bobbitt, Tessa I. Hackett-Vera. Did that initiative come out of our fatherhood program?
In
DYCDs?
part, yeah, in part. It was incepted by 2 state agencies, New York State Office of Children and Family Services, New York State Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. Several years ago, DYCD, through its fatherhood programs and some of the other city agencies, really embraced that campaign. And I can, as an editorial, speak to the rate of growth. So 8 years ago, 1 school. 4 years ago, that had grown to 40 schools. And this year, we're talking about over 600 schools. Most of those in New York City, but certainly across the state. So I would acknowledge our efforts. I would acknowledge the efforts of our providers really stepping into that, and our colleagues broadly. One thing that I'll say, and this body as well as the NAB, I think, has helped play a part in that, is pushing out the word to faith-based institutions to spread the word of the importance of getting involved. That's one new dynamic we're beginning to see. Yes?
Oh, I seem to recall, and I don't know if anyone else in the room seemed to recall, didn't there used to be a Take Your Daughter to Work Day? What happened? Did it die?
There have been years where the city has promoted a Take Your Child to Work event, and I think that has fallen sometime around the summer, around the month of June. I haven't seen any announcements about that, but I'll make inquiries and see if that's going to be happening.
Could we take a lead on resurrecting that, please?
I will follow it on that front. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Yes, please.
Actually, I wanted to, Melissa Lavagio, please. I wanted to ask, is there a way maybe we could do something on a more consistent basis. I can certainly appreciate take your kids to work days. But if it's not, I feel like if it's not followed up with, you know, and now that you're here, I'm going to sign for a contract for the year to say, you promise to do this, I don't know, either for the rest of the year, or once a week, or some other thing. And it can't just be that one day a year.
Agreed. See, in the interest of your time and the board's time, I'll make my answer simple. This, as a campaign, is a vehicle to promote awareness of staying involved throughout the school year. And so the strategies services are suggesting are both described on the website, and people are reminded of the spirit of this as they're registering, and the devil's in the details, so to say. So from site to site, whatever makes sense organically. You learn about the PTA, you learn about the meeting schedules, are you looking for volunteers? The individual programs and sites it's left to them to figure out exactly how to operationalize it. But I agree that it isn't about just the day, it's awareness raising to try to have sustained activity and involvement.
I saw a lot of correspondence back and forth among my friends with regards to it. Like, I mean, as a single mom, they were saying, oh, okay, that's great, one day a year, but what about the rest? And so, you know, we're parents every day of the year. So even if it just came out to say, you know, in addition to all the other workshops that you guys are hosting, that DYCD would draft a formal contract, not a formal contract, but just like a contract, you know, to say when the dad comes in, now that he's gone through all these workshops, now he can sign on and commit to once a week.
If the program committee is able to do it, I can present and have some of the colleagues present. We're getting ready to more effectively present what he's talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as an aside, this is the second year that Modell's has supported this particular initiative. What we did different this year was we promoted it on our social media sites and networks, and then some of the stores actually took their kit to work to show the support, took pictures and so forth. So I think the awareness piece is probably the piece that we took it up a notch to really be able to support them. So we was very happy to be a part of that initiative again. We appreciate that report. Any questions regarding Assistant Deputy Commissioner's report? If not, I entertain a motion to accept his report.
So moved.
So
Roy,
moved.
you then do.
Second.
Been seconded. Jason Price. All in favor, says aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? There being none, so moved.
With the Chair's permission, I'd like to read into record the members who came in after roll call. Monty Castaneda. Tony Foreman. Jackie De Leon. And yours truly, Clary Phillip. Did I miss anyone in roll call? Anyone here who?
My name's Tanya Castro. No, tú no eres miembro. Para los miembros. Oh, para miembros. No, nada.
Okay. So next is the chairman's and executive committee report. So first up, an update on one of our CAB members, Bernice Williams-Johnson. So if you haven't heard, she's currently hospitalized. DYCD contacted us a few weeks ago. She actually had an endoscopy, and it went very well. They punctured her esophagus in the process. So major complications. She was hospitalized. I know Sam from DYCD has been in touch with her. So last I heard, she's moved out of the hospital in a nursing home to continue to recover with IVs and so forth. So I wanted to inform you all of that. I bought get well cards. I thought it'd be nice if we all sign and certainly present that to her, and I will defer to Sam in terms of if she's up to visitors. I do believe you said she will take phone calls, but I'm not sure in terms of.
No, she didn't indicate whether she wanted to take visitors or not, but I'm sure we can do the cards and then we can find out by Monday or so.
Okay.
If we can, she can take visitors, we'll give you the information, you can pass it on.
Perfect.
to the rest of the members.
So I have cards here, so I'm gonna pass it up to both sides of the room as the meeting's going on. Feel free to sign, and I'm certain she would appreciate the concern and prayers as she continues to get well from this procedure. Endoscopies obviously has been a hot topic in the news. Dr. Joan Rivers, and my mother has actually had one on Tuesday, so we were both nervous about it, but thank God she came through it. So we certainly wish her well and look forward to her being back to the meeting. So I'm gonna pass one up this way. Let's get started. Yeah. Next up is an action item in terms of reappointment ratification. It's been mentioned in previous meetings, so for members who are currently in their second term, part of the process is we need to keep record of that and kind of appoint them to that second term to stay consistent with the process. So I'm going to read the names of the people, individuals, board members who are currently in their second term, and then ask for a motion that we just ratify their appointment. They're currently in the second term, currently been fulfilling their duties as board members, but certainly want to do our part to stay consistent with the process. Esther Adams, whose appointment is from January 2012 to 2015. Margot Brown Tunstall, March of 2012 to March of 2015. Melissa Delville Ortiz. Yeah, Melissa.
Hey, Mr. Hamburger.
Thank you. April 2014 to April 2017. Tony Foreman, October 2011 to 2014. Tessa Hackett Vieira, April 2014 to April 2017. Mr. Patel, April 2013 to April 2016. And Jason Price, March 2012 to March 2015. So those are the members currently in the term. If there are no questions, I just want to entertain a motion that we ratify their appointment to second term to the board.
So move, Margot Tunstall.
Second by Joseph Pierre. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, there being none, so moved. Thank you for that. And lastly, the executive committee met, as we all do, prior to the full board meeting. Topics of the agenda was the decision on who will be doing the presentation today, and we do have someone here that's going to do a presentation on the after-school program, Compass. If you recall, we discussed that throughout the programs that we obviously are involved with and support with CSBG funds. It would be good to have those programs present, so we all get a full context and flavor of how the programs are doing, and certainly you can ask questions if you have any. All the committees reviewed the activities that have taken place, and they'll do their presentations in regards to that. And Mike Bobbitt gave us an update on the Dads Take Your Child to School, which you heard the outcome of. Talked about the refunding application, and then the meeting was concluded in adjourned. So those were the details of our executive committee meeting. If we don't have any questions, we'll go into the committee reports, and then we'll entertain a motion to accept both reports. So first, we'll pass it over to Mr. Joseph Pierre, who's going to give the details of the governance committee report.
All right, good afternoon. We have just a small change from the bylaws, and if you look at your minutes, you will notice that on Article 3 membership section 1, election elected public officials. And the old language reads, these designated organizations will in return designate an individual who will represent them on the board. The new language now reads, the designated organization will in return designate an individual who will represent them on the board. Additionally, the organization will designate by letter an alternative to serve on the CAB. When designee is unavailable to attend. That's the new language.
Any questions? Any questions on the change in the language to that specific bylaw? Okay, next up we will have
When we met, and this was a recommendation coming out of the state when they looked at the bylaws. They recognized that the bylaws needed to have a different language setting. As you just recognized, we just reappointed people to the board, but we did that by accepting them on the board with the vote. It's the same process for all members who are currently functioning and who would be functioning in the future. When the organization sends, private organizations send their representative, they also have the chance to have a designated person and an alternate. And these alternates will also follow by letter, a correspondent letter stating that you are here and you would be the designated person or you'll be the alternate. And you'll be able to function within the designation as the state now requires. That's the reason for that change.
Any questions on that? Thanks for that explanation. Next, we will have feedback from the participation committee. Okay, all right. So we'll entertain a motion to make, to accept the change to the action item of the bylaws in the governance committee.
I have a question. If they appoint somebody to substitute in the absence of, can that, what if that somebody shows up in concurrence? I wasn't at the meeting, I apologize. What if that person shows up at the same time? How do we address that?
Just one vote, who casts the vote. That person could be present, but there could be one cast the vote.
The alternate would be there if the main person can't be there.
Okay. No, I do understand. My question is.
I got one call, sometimes it's 7 times, sometimes it doesn't.
Motion to accept the change. Well, Jason seconded first. Jason Price. It's been properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, there be none, so moved. All right, thank you for that. Now we'll move to the participation committee.
Sure, so the main update was, we discussed some updates to CSBG, which there weren't significant ones, but the key thing to note, which is included in your packet, is that UICD has traditionally done a great job of providing educational materials for the advisory board around CSBG. So if you flip through the packets, actually right after the participation committee minutes, there are fact sheets. Sure, sorry. There are fact sheets about CSBG. The first one is just generally about CSBG citywide, and then subsequently by each congressional district. So if any of you are having meetings with your representatives in Congress, feel free to bring these along, share them with the member of Congress and their staff, just so they know about what CSBG does in the district. So if and when eventually they have to discuss this budget-wise again on the federal level, they are well informed as to the role of this money in their district. So please have these ready and feel free to distribute them widely and give them out to the others in your community who you think might benefit from it.
And if you want a clean, nice copy, which looks nice and clean and color and everything, just ask us in what email to.
Yeah, and if you want to write electronic copies,
Really good.
we can provide that as well. Yes.
They're being sent to anyone in
Thanks, Emily.
particular? I'm sorry, Helene Hartman Kutnowski. It's Kutnowski. Are they being emailed or sent to community boards or any kind of local board? This is wonderful, it's great to
Yeah.
have it. But no,
Yeah, go for it.
These are available for different purposes. Most recently, we shared the information that Sandy's showcased because the National Community Action Foundation, which is a group that represents community action agencies around the country, they're going to be meeting with several of these members. And so they wanted more information about how DYC works. We're accustomed to providing this. I credit Joe and his unit, NEB, for getting this information together with our administrative unit. But as Sandy suggests, they can be used to inform other constituent
Yeah.
groups. So if you're meeting with members of the state assembly or the city council or other stakeholders, they want to know what's the impact, you can say your member of Congress should have seen this information and is welcome to see it if they haven't paid attention.
Yeah, I like the idea of sending them.
That this information is real, it's available, it's certainly something that they can say their member of Congress has seen, or if they haven't paid particular keen attention to it, they're welcome to do so. And that you might share that information with members of the city council, state assembly, etc.
Two other quick notes to your point, Helen. I would encourage anyone on the board, Joe can send these out electronically tomorrow, then if those of you who do have other associations, please do feel free to forward it so we do know that it's out there. And then to Mike's point, I did follow up with, it was Amy from the National,
And from the
Yeah.
National Community Action Foundation.
Right, and I did follow up with her to let her know what we were up to and check in and see what meetings they were doing. They did meet with a few individuals, but things were a little bit stalled because of the elections and there's no real movement on a budget, for better or worse. So things are a little bit held up, but I am in touch with her. She sent me some materials and she knows what we're up to in New York. And once things do pick up again, I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to work together. Any other questions on the fact sheets or on CSBG? Okay, so the other quick things were just quick updates. We discussed the poverty symposium, which we heard more from Mike about. And then, as I think Joe mentioned or someone mentioned, the other role of the participation committee is to brainstorm ideas for speakers for the full board meeting. So tonight we're excited to hear about Compass and how the expansion of after school is going. And we will continue to come up with ideas about programming for the next meeting. So for those new members, if any of this interests you, feel free to join the participation committee and be involved in those conversations.
Nice subtle way of saying that.
Gotta try. And that's it from my end, unless anyone has any questions. Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sandy, we appreciate that. So if there are no further questions, entertain a motion to accept the participation committee report.
So moved.
Say your name.
Gloria Benfield.
So moved by Gloria Benfield.
Second.
Second by Tony Foreman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions, there being none, so moved. And our last committee update is program committee by Melissa.
It was a great meeting. Basically, we had a presentation by University Settlement Society of New York City. They gave us a great presentation on the issues that they're dealing with in assisting families to find homes and all the work that they're doing in their immediate community. We had a thorough discussion on ways that they could reach out to other communities and perhaps maybe do some additional outreach. But other than that, it was it was very innovative, we felt. There was a program with NYCHA where they target specific developments within NYCHA to help preserve the housing situation between the tenants and maintain their apartment. And then follow up with them if there are ongoing issues. In addition, some of the questioning that came up behind that was, well, what if it's reoccurring? You know, can this person keep coming back for services if they're consistently behind on their rents? You know, and they don't really track that, but other than that, it was a pretty good, it was a very educational program, and they're looking to, it's a pilot program right now, and they are looking to spread it out across the city, but they have targeted sites right now. And that was really it. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Entertain a motion to accept the program committee report.
So moved, Margaret Johnson.
Moved by Margaret Johnson, seconded by Jason Price. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, there being none, so moved. Let's just jump back to my report, the executive committee report. Need a motion to accept that report. So moved. Not all say it at once. So moved by Jason Price.
Second.
I'm sorry, by
Tony.
Joseph Pierre, seconded by Tony Foreman. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstention, opposed, there being none. Thank you for those committee reports. And one other, and this is not so much in the way of report, but I remember that this came up as a result of the presentation from the last meeting. And this has been a hot topic. I also sit on the youth board and youth council as well. Outreach in terms of SYAP and Ladders for Leaders. So we know that that's one of the more successful programs of DYCD. But the challenge continues to be having enough employers to be able to provide jobs for the youth in the summertime. So it's close to 50,000, I want to say youth that we employed in the summer, but over 120,000 applied. So we keep, it's the second year in a row that we're talking about the success of the program, but unfortunately we can't move the needle in terms of upping the number of youth that we want to employ. So it was discussed at the last meeting, should we do some type of outreach as a board, what can we do? And I'm really just saying it just to kind of put it in your mind and kind of think about your circle of influence, employers you know, people, friends that you may know that may not know anything about SYAP or Ladders for Leaders, want to do the right thing, employing young people. I think is a huge segment of the employer population in the city that just doesn't take advantage of it. I work for a retailer, it's easy. Retail is flexible hours, it's fun, it's sales, but it's only one segment of the employers in the city. You have finance companies, you have IT organizations, you got other hospitality industries and so forth. So that outreach and that game plan needs to start now so we can set the stage for SYAP for 2015. So I'd just like you to give it some thought. I don't have the answer, but I'd like in subsequent meetings to be able to somehow come with a plan, whether it's an ad hoc committee, whether it's out of some of the committees that we have here, just to talk about how we can do that and maybe employ 10 to 20,000 more youth for 2015. That's my soapbox. I'm sorry.
Just to emphasize, as you were speaking, I keep remembering given a PBS that is showing the Roosevelts and thinking about how he employed masses through government initiatives and wondering if there anything at the city level that could be done, like parks and recreation or something like that, where you're employing a larger number of youth, getting them off the streets and giving them some maybe useful skills for the future.
Probably someone from DYC maybe answer this a little bit better than I. I think at the Parks and Recreation level, that's kind of where we do it right. I think that's where the opportunity is. I think it's but so many kids and opportunities you can provide there without having an extra, few hundred kids who are really gonna be just standing around, not doing anything, and not really, learning a useful trade to be able to, prepare them for. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for that. That's the thought process, and that's kind of the direction I was encouraging us to go into. So you're absolutely on the right track. How we do
She's on
it?
the committee. See what happens when you got ideas?
Good,
Yes.
going forward. I think one of the things that we could also do is reach out to the elected officials
That came up as
to,
well.
to provide some jobs for some of the youngsters. It's a great opportunity for a lot of youngsters, coming from a person that worked for elected officials. There's a lot of different agencies that you deal with, and community organizations, that would be a great outlet for some of the youngsters to get involved in. So maybe we're gonna look at something like that.
I agree. It's a very good point. So just want you to think about it, and I'll take into account what you talked about, and, maybe we need to really have some discussions on Facebook. That would be my wish list. We can certainly employ, a lot more than 20,000. I'm happy to have Michael, am I pronouncing it right, Dugan?
Very close. It's a long Dogan.
Dogan, okay. We have Michael Dogan, who's the Senior Director of Compass, Comprehensive After School Program. As you know, this is one of Mayor de Blasio's big initiatives. And he's here to certainly talk about the program and give us some feedback of how the program is going so far. So I look forward to that.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Dogan. I'm Senior Director of Operations for Compass Programs, Comprehensive After School System Programs, formerly called OST, or Out of School Time Programs. So that encompasses the Sonic programs, which you may have heard about. I was at a meeting earlier today when I was speaking with other stakeholders, the After School Corporation and other partners. My job at that presentation was to talk about our partnerships with the Department of Health and others for the school-age child care licensing part of that. I realized halfway through that speech that I was giving, I was throwing out acronyms right and left, and I was getting a lot of blank stares as to what this actually meant. So if I do that tonight, the role at that meeting, I actually had to put up, every time I threw out an acronym that was unsupported by saying what it meant, I had to put money on the table, like $1 or $2. And so that happens an awful lot, so I ponied up a lot of money at that particular meeting. So if I do that again today, I'd rather you just let me know what does that acronym actually stand for, and I'll be glad to answer that as well. Yes. So part of what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm communicating what Compass actually is, and it's really the whole. It is our elementary model, it is our middle school model, it is our high school model, it is comprehensive in nature. So it's all those things that we have been doing in the past. What is new and unique is the Sonic schools out in New York City, which is specifically and only for the middle school initiative. And so that's at the heart and the crux of what the mayor is really committed to be able to provide this year, which is services for middle school students. And what that is providing for these new Sonic programs that have started this month, that is 271 new programs in public schools. It is over 27,000 slots that are available for young people this year, new slots for middle school young people this year. We currently have over 20,000 young people enrolled between those new slots and our current or our previous middle school programs. And so we're well on our way, I think, to be able to meet the goals that we were setting out to be able to do. It is a very in-depth program model. It is to serve 540 hours, this new middle school model, over the course of the year. So where have we been really sticking with 8 hours per week over our core model over the course of the year between 30 weeks and 36 weeks. This is a 36-week model, 540 hours. It's supposed to be as intensive as possible to allow those opportunities for young people to be able to express what their needs are. So we have things like cooking clubs. I saw a program this past summer who was part of our expanding Sonic programs who was doing work on an intensive for filmmaking. So digital filmmaking is what they were working on over the summertime. And so where they were doing things like a typical group might have academic enrichment or support, they had a week-long intensive on filmmaking. And so what the kids were doing is they were holding the booms, right? So they were writing the script, they were editing all these pieces, so all the kids were doing different aspects of what that would look like. So I'm also thinking that we're talking like jobs in New York City. These are still middle school kids. I don't want to overcommit what that would be. But when we're talking about those different parts of that, you can think about production assistants in New York City, right? And being able to fit into those roles that could have jobs available. And sometimes those introductory program production assistant roles don't pay an awful lot of money, but boy, that offers such opportunity. So one of the things we want to do is with that 540 hours is to find enough things that capture kids' interest. So we have things like cooking clubs that's going to be a part of it. We're going to have soccer programs that's going to be a part of it. There's going to be academic enrichment opportunities, and so we really want to find what kids are interested in doing and try to meet them there with this initiative. So it's been a whirlwind of activity trying to get this done between when the new administration started this January and this program started this September. We've worked a lot with our city partners, including the Department of Health, to be able to inspect all of these sites, so that's all done and the sites are ready to go. We're moving forward with licensing with all of these sites. The Department of Ed has been a fantastic partner in trying to be able to make this work for us and giving us information and data, and also connecting with their principals on our behalf to make sure that the relationships between these new community-based organizations working in these schools is best met and that those dialogues are happening. Most of our team right now is going out to the sites and having conversations with principals. That relationship is so critical to us that we want to be able to be an effective steward and help answer those questions from the principals when that's happening. So we're investing a lot of time in what we're calling road shows to make it as successful for our community-based partners. So we are meeting with them. I have a meeting tomorrow, or our team does, a lot of people with about 50 different site directors, supervisors for organizations, to be able to walk them through what our expectations are so we can be as successful as possible. We're going to be doing that a lot in the next couple of months. I'm sure you have other particular questions, so maybe I'll just open it up to see if there's any specific questions that you have at this time. Yes.
Tessa Hackett Vera, Mr. Dugan, generally speaking, is Compass one of a for-profit initiative subcontracted to the Department of Education?
One of the for-profit, you said?
For-profit.
Can you just repeat the end of your question? For-profit initiative?
Subcontracted through the Department of Education.
Thank you.
This is money that is not coming through the Department of Education. It's not a for-profit. These are funds that are coming through the State Education Department, but through DYCD, through not-for-profit organizations, community-based organizations, to offer these services. It is very similar to the way that we've historically been contracting out with our OST programs, where we put out the proposal, not-for-profits participate. What's a little bit more unique in this is in terms of doing business differently is that the charter school networks have had an opportunity to be able to, their not-for-profit networks of the charter schools have been able to propose and are participating in this initiative. But it is not a for-profit.
So it's not for profit. So is that the monies that Mayor de Blasio was able to get from the state budget through our governor?
It's exactly it. It is the same funding stream that is supporting the UPK initiative.
So that's an extension to the core monies that's coming in for the pre-K program.
Correct.
Yes.
We Eileen Hartman, Pednowski. I have two questions. One, my concern is environmental testing. The programs are not all in the school or the charter schools. There might be a community-based organization. Are they buildings being tested for environmental hazards?
Yes.
I'm a parent of a child who was exposed to a toxic contaminant for many years because the building was a leased building. It's a whole nightmare, but we're working on it. But I just want to make sure the Board of Ed is looking into this now because it's been a weak issue.
So, yes, 80 to 90% of our programs are located in public schools also including charter schools. We have about 10 to 20% that are located outside of that public school structure. All of our elementary and middle school programs, the bulk of our Compass programs, are school-age child care licensed. What that means is that they are also inspected by the Department of Health. So all of these facilities are licensed facilities. Part of that is environmental testing. I'm having those conversations with the Department of Education and the Department of Health. So that's part of the process in play. So the licensing is about the facilities and are these organizations themselves, are they licensable as well? So that's what we're doing.
In New York, it's a big issue, big problem. And the second thing is, you didn't mention theater programs. I was hoping, especially for middle school students, it's a great thing. They're not getting a lot of it during the day.
Well,
Do you guys have any of that, or are you thinking about it?
So maybe I'll give this I majored in theater. There is nothing that would please me more than to see that kind of activity happen more and more. And the way that we're thinking about that filmmaking intensive is the way that we'd love to be able to see some more programs afford performing arts and all kinds of arts into their program models. We believe, as much as we're talking about academic enrichment itself, I think that there's so many ways to think about that. Right? There's not one line way to think about literacy. A great way to think about literacy in the way that I think about it is I discovered a lot of great thinking through reading plays, not necessarily through novels. So I think that there's great introductions to kids in different avenues that will kind of meet their needs. And I think in the way that we're thinking about the filmmaking intensive, to be able to write and to be able to collaborate with other people and to be able to put something on, I think those values are true. I think that one of the key components of Sonic is leadership activities. So it's required that every program have leadership activities, at least 2 hours a week, every single one of them. And I think a great way to think about that, if you're a play director, right, and you're collaborating and building with others, I think that I think would be powerful. I think that at least one of our programs in Sunset Park does really fantastic work within theater. So I expect to see that happen a lot more.
Great, thank you. I'm very excited about the funding, very excited.
Mr. Dugan, clearly there haven't been any surveys taken by either high school, junior high, or elementary school children. So there hasn't been any feedback from the young people or the students about what they would want. So some other decisions has been made about what to offer. Who made those decisions?
So
Was there any parent involvement?
That is a great question. So we do two things. For years we have been doing, so the question here is about in what ways do we connect with things that the kids are actually interested in doing.
Correct.
And so we have been doing, you could call them outcome tracking surveys, but they're really surveys. It's not as much about participant interest per se, but it is about, is this program effective? Is it meeting your needs? And we do those surveys for grades 3 and up for all former OST participants and Beacon participants. So we have a sense, a strong sense of the data as to find out of how effective this initiative is and what they think about that. And so that's administered at almost all of our sites that serve grades 2 and up. But the language that we've infused into our RFPs and what we're seeing at our sites is that these middle school programs that I'm talking about now are actually doing surveys to kids and finding out what they are interested in. One of our lawyers sent to us a picture of his son's school that it attends that happens to have a Sonic program, and it has a picture on the wall of the types of surveys and things that the kids are interested in doing. So they're building these programs now based on what the kids are doing. So a question that I get asked a lot is like, Mike, what are all the programs gonna be doing right now? You know, what should I expect to see if I go out next week? And I'm a little bit leery in kind of answering that, because I think our programs are gonna develop that through time. Because we want to gauge kids' initial interest. I wouldn't expect to see, frankly, a lot of it's gonna be good getting to know you exercises. A lot of it's gonna be making sure that the kids are connected to the staff in a way that's gonna be smart. And then later on during the year, I expect to see some things, well, this clearly didn't work, right? We need to rethink this idea, and we need to be able to do something a little bit differently with that. And we want on our end to be flexible and adaptable to get those changes make sense to making that happen. So I don't really want to over-prescribe, and I think there's different ways to kind of get at leadership and what that really means. But we want to say that we want to build leadership possibilities within kids. We want literacy to be able to happen. Another key component is STEM. And so there's a couple of different ways to be able to get that as well. You know, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I had to say that, also had to put some money on the table. But that's, every program is expected to do that for 2 hours a week this next year. Because there's a lot of currency, and because we also believe that there's a vacancy in mathematics, understanding and learning within our kids. And so we had one program just recently that was putting together catapults. So they were taking a look at history, world history, and levers and ramps and things like that. So we want to find different ways to be entry points in the after school that may be different than the school day. So it could be a lot different. I'm typical to give a very long answer to a short question.
But there wasn't any parent involvement to date.
I'm sorry?
There's been no parent involvement to date in your surveys?
I think that it is, you know, RFPs give a lot of language about the parent engagement, but I can tell you that that's one of the things that we don't feel that we have successfully tackled. And so I think we're much more comfortable in some ways about the youth development pieces and understanding what that looks like. A lot of us have worked in programs and figured out how to connect with kids and find their interest to be able to keep them engaged, but connecting with parents is one of the, I know is one of the chancellor's priorities. We've had those discussions with her and her team. We're going to try to figure out what to do kind of systematically, but I think that we're trying to figure out also ways to connect with the parent coordinators and to get them more involved. And so that's something, I don't think I have the best answer for you now about what that looks like, but it's definitely on our radar to be able to make that work. And I know that the chancellor is very committed to be able to making that work as well.
Thank you for an honest answer.
Can you also let the group know how the city came up with the name Sonic for those cities youth ones?
Exactly. So we had, we were trying to, I'll give just a brief background. OST, out of school time. So if you are in Los Angeles, people will talk about OST, but they're not talking about DYCD, right? They're talking about the sense of what happens after school, between the hours of 3 and 6, or between 6 and 8, or whatever happens before the school day. It's kind of a broad catchphrase for just about everything. So we've known for a long time that we needed to rethink what that looks like. But we were trying to come up with too many adult sophisticated names and thinking that way. It was just getting this so many problems. And we've worked with a group in helping to think about, we're not branding people, we're more youth development people. I'm not a marketer per se. And so we engaged them, and they really encouraged us to think about making it public and have kids pick what that name was. So it was a young person who picked that name. There are a lot of other great possibilities. There are some that are probably not entirely credible, but there was great stuff that kids were really coming up with, and they really were connected. It really is about their identity. So you're not going to see an adult wearing a Sonic t-shirt necessarily, because it's not going to be what's meaningful to them. So that young person won an iPad as a part of participating in this contest. I don't know how many submissions we have, but certainly over a couple hundred participating in that. We will look towards something very similar within elementary programs. So right now it's just a part of Compass, so that's going to be on the horizon as well as what how do we want to best describe the elementary portion of Compass globally, and I think that we'll also do something very similar with our high school programs. We have a transition high school initiative right now that's really about engaging ninth grade participants, and we'll try to do something very similar for high school kids as we move forward.
Thank you. Actually, I remember over the summer, the commissioner was talking about another RFP around after-school programs at community organizations. It's most of them are at schools, it's also going to be libraries at schools, and it would be open to libraries and non-public schools and the CEOs of their sites. So I just wanted to know if that was on the horizon.
It is just about over the horizon. It is coming out very soon. It is more than in the works. It is happening, and with the goal of program services to start this January. So the question here is about what we had moved forward right now was those 271 programs in public schools and charter schools. Clearly, there's a lot of opportunities for kids outside of that system and in different places and avenues throughout the city. So we have a new RFP that we're going to work in centers, yeshivas, Catholic schools, or any other non-public school situation, be able to meet those youth where they're at as well. So that's going to happen very soon. And also District 79 and homeless shelters. So there's funding and language that's going to be coming out to address those needs as well.
And that'll all be part of the same RFP? Or at least?
Yeah, it'll be so.
So I know this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the meeting, this is the good part. But in the interest of time, we have, I think, room for more questions.
It was similar to that, you mentioned Frank, and,
Can I just have your name, please?
oh, Jacqueline Denham.
Thank you.
And, was wondering what areas do you focus on, and how do you pick your district, and how are those decisions made?
For the upcoming RFP or the ones we have now?
The ones you have now and the upcoming ones.
So the goal of the last RFP, the new Sonic programs that are starting now, was to try to be in every single public school that did not have comprehensive after-school services. So it was not about picking districts. It was any place that did not already have a program. So wherever there was unmet needs, that was the goal of being able to try to be. So I think that we're currently now at about 85% of all the public schools. So between Compass and Beacon and our programs that we're funding here, we're at 85% of all the public schools. And so we didn't have to think too hard about of this limited funding, how do we direct it and where do we direct it? Our goal was to be everywhere. And so that's kind of the intentionality with, we recognize there's other needs outside of the public school system. So that's the nature of this, trying to put out this RFP as well. So we're allocating most of it by borough distribution.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Round of applause for Mr. Will you be here a little bit after the meeting, just in case?
I will be here a little bit after the meeting.
I'm sure there's a couple of questions. We appreciate that feedback. Any old business?
Just one comment on the old business. I think governors want to make you be aware that there is an outstanding question yet to be answered. If you look at the minutes, last meeting, we still have an outstanding question to be answered by UICD. It's the role and function. Role and function of the advisory board. And we know that it's not going to be discussed today, but we expect that at the next full board meeting, we will have the total designation for that function. We know that sometime in May 2014, and we know that we will get an answer by November 2014 as to that particular question. Other than that, I want to say to all new people who have joined the board that we look forward to seeing you participating. As you would recognize, this board, this governance board, is really an active board. Things are changing all the time. It's always evolving. The state came in recently and reviewed our bylaws, and they were pleased with what they found, and we are looking to even make the changes that needs to be made, and we want people to participate. So if you think that your involvement will be suited to this particular committee, then I invite you to be at the next governance meeting so that you will have a voice. And I say, thank you.
Thank you. Well, listen, you're the only one that didn't recruit anybody. Committee.
Good. We have strong people.
Okay. Okay.
I know you're invited. You're invited to my committee. Oh my gosh, programs committee. Need your input. We want your commentary. Email me. Tell me all about it. We meet for lunch. Your treat.
All right, with that said, yes,
Motion to adjourn, please.
With that said.
you beat me to it. But first,
I gotta go.
let's go in order. Any new business that we need to discuss?
No business.
During the meeting? And the card, did everyone get to sign the card? I have one here, is there one still floating? The Get Well card? You have it? Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I gotta go.
So moved.
And I'm second.
Thank you, everyone. All in favor?
Aye.